Hey everybody, welcome to this devlog for the Outbound Ghost. If this is the first time seeing one of my videos, no worries, not much context is needed for the game. It's an adventure game inspired by Paper Mario in terms of visuals and story structure, but gameplay-wise it's more inspired by Undertale. Specifically, inspiration comes from more in terms of the variety of the gameplay modes as opposed to something else. So in this video, I'm going to recount the progress that I made all this week, so the week of the 21st of June. And since the Kickstarter is coming out on the 12th of July, and by the way, the link for the pre-release page is in the description, I continue working on everything that's needed for the demo. And I'm doing these devlogs weekly, so make sure to subscribe so you can follow development closely in anticipation of the demo. Given that the game's super story-oriented, I did a lot of cutscene stuff, but I don't really want to show it off in this devlog because I don't want to spoil it. But I also did a lot of other stuff, so I'll show that. Specifically, I did a lot of polish and implementation stuff that's really important as well. So I'll start with the lockpicking system, which I reworked. Something I talked about in the previous devlogs is that something I really don't want is a lot of scene changing in the game. So what that means is there's a lot of like fade to blacks, loading screens, stuff like that. I feel like it just really takes you out of the moment and it just kills the pacing a bit. In one of the previous devlogs, I explained how the cutscene system was kind of like this, where you kind of went up to a ghost, you talked to them, and the game would fade to black and go from there. So again, I feel like this sort of approach kind of really hurts pacing for this sort of game, and so I made the change that all cutscenes play out of the same world that you play the normal game in. So you can see here, I go up to a ghost, I talk to them, and the cutscene system plays, right? And it's actually the same system as the dialogue system, so I only have to make one, so that's another plus. But yeah, for the lockpicking system, it was similar. Once you got a certain amount of lockpicks, you can go up to a lock and you can unlock it. And previously, this would send you to another scene and you can play the minigame, right? But now the panel comes down and you just play it in the actual world itself. So it's so much more fluid. You don't have to wait around for any fade to blacks or anything like that. There's less wasted time, there's less downtime, and it just makes the game more gameplay dense, which is just really great for the player, I think. For the minigame itself, apart from streamlining the access to it, I also added some polish to a bunch of things. So you can see here in the old version, when you selected a little bar, it just turned blue and that's it, but now there's a little bouncing effect, there's also sound effects as well. Everything just feels much better to play right now. And if you have any suggestions for making the game feel better or look better, let me know in the comments, I would love to hear. Another game feel related thing I added is rumble. It's kind of really hard to show how it would work if I just screen record my screen. The best way I could think of showing how it looks or works is through just recording the rumble effect while the controller lays on my table so you can hear it and I guess by extension feel how hard it is through the sound. So you can see here the effect is quite exaggerated, but it's just so you can actually hear it because otherwise it's a bit hard. It won't be that strong in game. It'll have a nice feel to it. If you don't like rumble, of course, you'll still be able to turn it off in the settings. And kind of related to the settings, I actually overhauled the whole menu system. So before it looked like this, it was sort of like a paper-like aesthetic, and I was quite happy with it. But there is some stuff there that's kind of relevant now, and some other layout-related things that I'm not super happy with. And others that had to fit in due to the new additional features, so the change was inevitable. For example, you can see in the old menu system, there was a section where you can see which partner was with you. And this was because back when I made it, partners had abilities and they were really important to the game. So for example, I explained how you need items to lockpick a lock. And before, instead of using an item, you actually had to go to Frank, which is a character, partner with them, and then they would be able to lockpick it for you. But you would still go through the minigame sequence. Unfortunately, even though I really liked the idea, it didn't really work out because it meant that if there was a character in the story that wasn't present, so let's say Frank isn't there, automatically it restricted what gameplay modes could be presented. So if Frank wasn't there, straight up I could not implement any lockpicking segments in that part of the story. So yeah, I didn't really like that, just I feel like it handicapped me a bit. And so what I did was I made it so that items serve the same purpose and partners are still with you, but more for story purposes. And they still unlock certain opportunities for you throughout the story. As for how the new menu looks like, it looks like this. As you can see when I put it side by side with the Paper Mario Origami King UI, it's not a coincidence that it's very similar. I feel like this design is much more spacious and the simplicity of the tabs just make it really easy to add new sections. Before, the tabs on the left were just a bit of a pain to work with, but the ones on the top are just really simple. It's not completely finished yet, as you can see there's some tabs missing, so like the settings and the cards, but I'm still really happy with the progress so far. Another UI related thing I want to touch on is the item wheel and the dash. Before, the dash was an item you had to equip in order to be able to dash. So this meant if you wanted to have your shovel equipped and dash around and then dig here, dig there, you couldn't really do that. So you had to keep on switching between the two. This wasn't great because if you're not super dexterous with your fingers, it hurts the pacing a bit because you have to stop, select your item, and then continue. But not everybody can do this, be that due to fine motor skill impairment or even unfamiliarity with the controls. And that's because the item wheel was mapped to the right joystick and you had to press it constantly in order to select what item you wanted to use. So there was no sort of toggle, so if you had difficulty pressing up and like holding the joystick in the position, it wasn't so easy. So because of this, I made two changes. The first of which is there's now a toggle for the item wheel while staying still. So you can just press select or whatever, go on your joystick, choose which item you want to do, and then go on with your life. But if you still like the quick select way, it's still there. So you can either use the toggle with the left stick or use the quick select with the right stick. And so in tandem with this, which is the second change, I made it such the dash is no longer an item and it's just straight up its own button. Until now, I've only used 2 buttons for the game, which is like A and B on the Xbox controller. And now the dash is B, which was previously the item button, and the item button is now X. The last thing I wanted to show this week is one of the last gameplay moments that will be in the Kickstarter demo. And again, if you haven't followed the pre-release page, please do that. It really helps for discoverability. And you'll be notified exactly when the campaign comes out, so you'll be able to get the early bird tiers really early. But yeah, I won't fully explain how this gameplay moment works, but I worked on some cool visual stuff so I can show it in this devlog. Story-wise, it happens 2/3 through the game, so you meet this character called Shirley who locks herself inside a building, and the inhabitants of the town want to get her out. And so to get her out, you basically have to argue with her, and I've been calling this like a word battle, and you've got to deplete her like argumentative health so she allows you to enter the building for her own good. And yeah, if you want to see how the gameplay itself works, like fully explained, then make sure to subscribe because I'll be doing that in next week's devlog. But yeah, that's it for this devlog, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm super excited to have you all play the demo in the next few weeks. And if you have any feedback regarding what you've seen in the devlog, please leave a comment. I would love to hear it. But yeah, that's it. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next week.